Hello, and welcome to our webinar today on VirtualETL and CloudETL, Virtual Data Manager for Two. My name is Mike Zuckerman. I am the Queplix Chief Marketing Officer, and today our webinar will cover VirtualETL and CloudETL, two of our products which are anything but ETL, and enable you to cost-effectively and efficiently, at much lower risk, integrate and connect any two of the sources you have on-premise or even in QCloud. Queplix is a data integration and data management company. We supply all of the components you'd expect to support business intelligence, data alignment, and the core element that we've been replacing in the market in so many accounts is ETL. ETL, of course, is a legacy technology, but has been the workhorse for loading the data warehouse historically and connecting any two applications. And that's what our discussion is today, the most cost-efficient and effective ways to replace ETL technology. So, VirtualETL and CloudETL are anything but ETL, and we'll show you why. You can see our customers by going to our website and looking at the case studies. We have many customers, thousands of users around the world, small customers and large customers, all of whom are important to us. The problem we solve, which is addressed by VirtualETL and CloudETL, is really bridging these applications across a broad gap. Our products can live on-premise or live in the cloud. And unlike many large legacy companies, we have exactly the same application interfaces, the same architecture, and the same code base. So if you're on-premise today and you want to move to cloud tomorrow, or you want to start in the cloud, it doesn't matter. You're not locked into a legacy technology like you are with many large vendors, let alone a legacy price point. The technology curve is very simple. CloudETL and VirtualETL are third-generation products built on anything but ETL technology. We're using a persistent metadata server and advanced data virtualization, and it dramatically changes the way that this technology will work for you. First generation ETL is at least a 15-year-old technology from the days of loading the data warehouse, and probably more. And 90% of the customers out there are still struggling with first generation ETL. And the reason you'd ask is, well, why is this happening? And the answer is because the big legacy vendors have predominantly a financial services model wrapped around professional services. Their entire business is about charging the maximum dollar price they can get per hour for the greatest number of hours to do the integration. So ETL is a bonanza for people in the data integration services business. And so they have no motivation to advance the technology. It works, it's good enough, and if a customer can be talked into batch movement once a day, then it's a big home run. Some of these tools have sprouted GUI interfaces, but most of this is placing no more nor less than 20-year-old technology in a 1-year-old cloud with some nice marketing. And fundamentally, most of the technology out there, even that branded by data virtualization, is not using a persistent metadata server, and this is a big game changer for everybody. Advanced data virtualization is very different. It's a unified architecture. Cloud and on-premise are the same. You can't see that with any of the major vendors or most of the small vendors that only support a cloud model or an on-premise model. And, this makes a big difference. Something like data quality is integrated from the very bottom. It's part of the data integration process. This is exactly contrary to most of the products out there. Probably 90% talk about data quality as a separate division or a standalone product, and without data quality you cannot load your data warehouse, you cannot do BI, you cannot integrate 2, 3, or 5 sources, it doesn't matter. Object-oriented view, everything is converted, relational, objects, XML, complex APIs, no SQL, into objects in our dashboard that can be manipulated by a business user. No SQL, no programming, business user ready. I think you know that some of the major vendors out there, the very large ones, have a business analyst workbench, which in turn translates what you'd like to integrate to something for the programmer to start to work with. Boy, what a mess. We have an interface that a business user can sit down with and start to become productive with that will generate content for you in your enterprise and integration, and it's business user ready. IT can partner with the business community, can partner with the data governance, and all the people that are necessary to bring the whole effort together, and no one has to do any programming. It's a big change. Finally, the technology underneath the covers, persistent metadata server. It's a big mouthful, but it's a powerful set of capabilities. I remember when I ran an engineering group, perhaps in the mid-90s, I heard about application servers, and I yawned and went back to sleep, and then they came up in a year or two, and I was ordering 3 that morning. And it was fundamentally because application servers filled a niche that operating systems didn't address, the big database servers didn't address, as the web was born. Persistent metadata servers are compelling in what they do, and while there will be many different versions, I see vendors that will head just to data warehousing with basic data virtualization or competing technologies. I see vendors that would use this for data integration like us. It really fills a niche and serves a need, and it manages the explosion in points of connectivity. When a vendor tells you to build a pipe, think about that architecture. You're connecting A to B and B to C and C back to A. Pipes don't scale. We provide an integrated view to the entire set of connectivity, and we build this around a hub and spoke architecture. It's much more powerful. You virtualize once and you can integrate many. There is one connectivity point to any application in your enterprise, and we can cascade these servers together in a way that allows you to control governance and statefully review compliance and audit and see the whole picture. And it's a white box technology. Everything that's inside the system is exposed in a way that a business user can understand it. This is exactly contrary to ETL. Now, don't get me wrong, ETL people are the brightest, smartest people we deal with. They face a difficult task. They have to work with primitive tools because these tools are given to them, and they have to figure out a lot of very complicated things and program them manually, a line at a time, to get the work done. So ETL people become, and ETL teams become, the greatest fans for our technology, and that's why we wanted to market some of the basic entry components for on-premise as VirtualETL and CloudETL, because ETL teams are the people that always pilot our systems and bring it in-house, and they become our greatest fans. Advanced data virtualization is very different. Basic data virtualization, really has four components. Virtualized, everything's in one place, visible through metadata. It's abstracted, one consistent format. In our system, it's objects. In most legacy data virtualization, it's probably relational look. And federation, the notion that you can pull together pieces. But you pull them together. In our system, you really see them. They're globalized. You can see these virtual views before they're ever pulled together, and you're still not moving the data. And then presentation means that you can move the data anywhere and transform it to the format that that consuming application needs. So those are the four basic virtualization components. Advanced data virtualization is taking it a step further. A unified architecture for cloud on-premise, integrated with data quality, an object-oriented view for every kind of component you'd have that you'd want to work with VirtualETL or CloudETL. And those components can be relational, they can be XML, they can be files from SharePoint, they can be object, they can be NoSQL files from Cassandra or from Cloudera. It doesn't matter. Finally, the business user focus, enabling this environment without SQL and without programming and making it business user ready is a huge sea change. And all of this is done for several reasons. The first is reduction of risk. Second is speed to market. Third is reduction of cost. We're going to take 50 to 75% to maybe 90% out of the professional services costs. And the strategic benefit long-term is data mobility. There are companies out there that see these benefits and want them, and there are perhaps larger companies that will move more slowly. But the fact is that when the sun rises at some point in time, the dinosaur was done. And legacy integration technologies that are not cloud-enabled, that are incompatible amongst the vendor base, are not going to rapidly scale to support the new wave of applications with vendors like Salesforce and NetSuite and many others that follow behind them. That's what advanced data virtualization can do. Analysts are all over this now. They're starting to understand. Right from Forrester in June, integration by ETL creates data quality problems and delays information delivery. And this came out of a report on data virtualization, a great report from Forrester. And you can see that. Talk to Brian Hopkins and find out more. We have other analysts that have looked at our system, and again, organizations need simpler, lower-cost alternatives to existing ETL methods. Everyone gets that this stuff is dated, and everyone has figured out that the reason the big vendors are delighted to see ETL in your shop is that they have a professional services boondoggle. These are the points that enable VirtualETL and CloudETL. They're application software blades. And they intelligently wrap to the APIs or to the underlying data structures or to the optimized entry point to integrate at the data level. We do not change the applications. We do not require that you set triggers in your databases. This is not application level integration, it's data integration. It's seamless and it's automatic. You don't need to remember things about the SAP API or the structure of the Oracle e-business systems, stored procedures. We take care of all of that for you and bring it to a high level of automation and then manage it on an ongoing basis. IEEE did a study where they shared that over 40% of the time spent in data integration was just figuring out what you were working with. What are the sources? What are the schemas? What are the semantics? We automate all of this for you. We populate it automatically into a data dictionary, and we make it persistent. It's not an instance. It's not a metadata in time. It's a persistent metadata directory built into a data dictionary, and it gives you power to do things you cannot do with competing technologies like Legacy ETL. That's what's inside VirtualETL and CloudETL. VirtualETL is simple. Connect any two sources you want, pick the blades you need to pull things together. You can pick any two for CloudETL. They're packaging and pricing instances. So CloudETL will give you the benefit of lower cost blades enabled by the very nimble cloud applications. The more complex integrations VirtualETL supports tend to be on-premise. And these are the things that you need to effect integration rapidly and quickly. You can scale VirtualETL or CloudETL up to much larger implementations on-premise. You can scale it as large as Virtual Data Manager will go. We make it easy to upgrade, but we give you this low-cost entry point for your on-premise implementation. And if you don't want on-premise, we give you the same benefits of our cost structure with QCloud. So QCloud's in the cloud, VirtualETL or CloudETL are on-premise. It's the same code base, same compatibility. Everything you do will be the same. Your investment is protected 100%. If you look at Legacy and you look at the new world, Legacy is so much about moving files. It's so much about the relational paradigm, and connectors and things that have been added to address objects and new APIs are cobbled on. They're not well done. You need to be a programmer to use these tools. They talk about GUI APIs, but the people you talk to, they're all programmers. And in the final analysis, when you get down to the level of transforms, you're programming there. In our system, there's no programming. It's real expressions like Excel. It's very simple. We have tools like Color Automap that automatically use heuristics to process and understand semantics and tell you how to pull things together. We don't try to use wire diagrams and templates. I can't tell you how many times as a developer I've heard that there was some template to do something, and then you're sitting there for hours trying to figure out what they did, when instead you can connect automatically and have the heuristics work for you. There's no such thing most of the time as a reusable template, and these wire diagrams are really programmer tools, no more nor less. ETL, or the GUI-driven ETL in the cloud, is a black box technology. Under the covers, no one knows what's going on because it's ETL, it's explicitly programmed. VirtualETL and CloudETL are advanced data virtualization technologies. They're white box technologies. Everything is visible and auditable. A CFO can come up and see what the system is doing. And it's scalable and networkable so that you can tie this to your governance process and make it visible across the organization. There's a night and day difference between VirtualETL and CloudETL and the capability they support in Legacy ETL. When you move to our technology, you're getting rid of cost, time, risk, all of this confusion with wire diagrams and little modules of things that are hard to see. We make it very simple for you, very easy. And if you have any doubt about the benefits, let us do the integration for you. We'll deliver it at a fraction of the cost because we're leveraging our technology. So if you're not sure about the benefits of the technology, but you want the benefits of cost, ask us or our VARs to deliver it turnkey for you, and then you'll have the benefit of cost and we'll maintain it moving forwards. That's the easiest way, and it's the quickest way. VirtualETL and CloudETL are very easy to look at, very easy to manage your way through. You log in. You're writing a data dictionary, which is in essence the metadata catalog management. You can see all of your connectivity points. It's automatic. All of your connectivity points are connected to by virtue of security permissions. They're exposed and they're persistent. When things change, the system absorbs it. These are not instances in time to program a pipe. This is a server that's mapping inside the enterprise, constantly updating and being aware of the structure of your applications. It's kind of like Tivoli's original vision for the enterprise. We have it here today for data integration. You can see it's very easy to get a connectivity point going, and that connectivity point can remain consistent for you across multiple projects. Every single thing you see, every table inside a source is exposed in the metadata catalog. This particular demo version I sliced from is a release back. We now have this labeled as Data Dictionary. And you can see how you can customize it, start to add more labels, and then start to make sense of which components align across the different applications. So we look at NetSuite and we say, how will we connect this to other applications? And what's the best way to do this? You can create virtual fields, which is something you don't see in legacy data virtualization or any other integration technology. You can say, I want to build a table. From these 3 tables, I want 2 columns from here and 1 column from there and 2 columns from there. But instead of having to federate it and move it and actually do the work with advanced data virtualization, you can see it and you can see the resultant data and nothing is moved. It's a virtual instance in our system, but you can see this new table as if it existed and you can see the resultant data. You know, we build the key, and we allow you to know that when you map those columns together, that you've got the right record from one mapping to the right record from the other. And we have all the tools to do this and automate it. Nobody can do what we can do to bring these components together. And all of that's built into VirtualETL and CloudETL. All the regular expression tools you need, very easy to do. If you can work with Excel, you can make it work. And it's a powerful concept for anybody to leverage in the world of data integration. You can see, for instance, any of the specific fields, and then you can start to change the labels. I'm integrating all the time, and SAP, I love them, but some of the field names they apply to customer data just don't make any sense, right? You're not looking at the API, you're looking at our dash, so it's all exposed. And you know, this address field is the same in SAP as it is in my new NetSuite system, in my new division, as it is in these 3 instances of Salesforce, but they're all different names. I figured out they're all the same because of color automap that Queplix has provided, and now I'd like to give them a unique name. I'd like to change that first one, account type, and make it account 01 type in every single application in my metadata directory or my data dictionary. And those are the kinds of things you can do with our system. So if you're building out large integrations like MDM, the power of our system is tremendous and the leverage it gives you will be considerable. You can actually drill into any source and look in the data catalog and see actual data, but it's not in our system. And unlike ETL and unlike other components of integration, we provide full support for security technologies like LDAP or others. We don't want to change the security models you use. We want to support exactly what you have, and we want to be respectful of permissions. The last thing we want to do is sit in front of a security officer and explain why we have a different security model. That is not a way to map to the enterprise. So we map to your model. ETL and most of these other technologies assume they have rights to all of the data in the applications at both ends. And if you want to program something different using your ETL team, boy, is that complicated. The probability of error is high. You don't want to be programming, custom security gateway permissions. That is not the way to do things, especially in the ETL team. Our system will support LDAP. It will support all of the masking and permissions and limitations to certain sub-data sets that you have, and that's the way to map your data integration together. That means when your CFO or your auditors have a question about the components of data and what moved, you have a model that respectfully maps the compliance tools you use today, and most of the time they will be LDAP or equivalent, and that's what we do. VirtualETL, CloudETL enable you to bring up 2 sources side by side and to start to compare the metadata, and then Color AutoMap starts to tell you what you need to do to bring it together. It's very easy. People say, well, it's new, I don't know if I'll see the benefits, and we'll say, no problem. Let us quote you the integration turnkey delivered, And if you look at some of our promotions, you'll find that the cost is just absolutely stellar in terms of being at the low end of the spectrum. And you might as well just ask us to do the first one. We'll sit with you side by side. We'll show you how you do it, and then you're enabled going forward. All of our VARs to reach certification go through 3 integrations with us, and we make sure that they're absolutely capable and competent. Even though most of them, halfway through the first integration, would probably tell us, please go away, we understand, right? It's click and configure. But, you know, if it's not comfortable for you to use this kind of a tool, we tend to bid these turnkey, and we'd be pleased and delighted to do the same for you. There is a free component, a look at Virtual Data Viewer. You basically get to see everything on this screen. You can't do the integration, but you can see it for free, and it's a nice tool to try out the UI. Here you see 3 applications side by side in VirtualETL or CloudETL. Salesforce, PeopleSoft, and NetSuite. 2 objects in the cloud and 1 relational on-premise, brought up into a simple dash. Color Automap brings it together. So if I want to move name from one to the other, in one system it's 2 fields, in the other system it's 1. And for a programmer to do this would take, concatenation and move it and check it and get rid of blank spaces and all sorts of things that they would program. Here you click a few boxes, you say I want to move this data over, you describe the business rule, and it's done. It's a very, very different paradigm. It's very powerful, yet it's very easy for you to implement. There's all sorts of other work that you can look at inside the system. If you look at the latest release, you'll see all of the reporting. And in this release, data quality is under the covers inside one section here. In the new release, we actually have a top-level section for data quality because it's been so popular with customers and it's become a lead attraction. We found that most of our competitors have no integrated data quality, point people at partners or other divisions. So unfortunately, I'm not as skilled. I haven't used the next release yet. Myself, I've been traveling so much, but if you looked at the screen in the new release, you'd see the data quality tab right there, and that just makes it much easier. The notion of architecture and lineage for VirtualETL and CloudETL really is that, you have transforms, things that either create virtual entities that you view or that enable you to move data between systems through harmonization. And they're driven by business processes and business rules. So the business rule may be, if this field in this system equals 5, then do all of these things. Move all of this data a record at a time, map these keys together, boom, 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 and make sure you're tracking and managing data quality. But if that's not the case, do this. Now that's programmed explicitly using ETL. And when you buy, default packages from an ETL, a 20-year-old technology and the 1-year-old cloud vendor, they give you little nuggets, or they pop things together, or they give you these little pre-configured ways to do this that are mostly completely useless. Because I haven't met a single customer that just wants to move data one way all the time forever, that has no business rules that are articulated other than just, move these 5 fields to these 5 fields once a day. That is so primitive and so useless and so non-scalable. And that's how that stuff is marketed, but that's not the reality of what customers need. And we have all those components built into the system. And then to see multiple servers, and then the roll-up of these capabilities, and then ultimately our unannounced Virtual Master Data Manager allows you to bring order to your chaos enterprise-wide. So it's a big vision, and it's uniquely enabled by advanced data virtualization. And the core building block is VirtualETL and CloudETL, so it's really beneficial for you. I get asked a lot, so how does data virtualization work? Tell me again. So these application blades reach into all the applications securely and discover and organize the data. The data becomes virtualized, right? So you can see it in one place, through metadata. You can see all the metadata. It's abstracted into one consistent format, and now you can start to pull pieces together. You can say, this is the piece that I want to virtualize. I want to pull these columns into my data warehouse. Or this is the record of truth. When this business rule happens, migrate this record of truth into 3 other applications. And then transform them so the presentation is right, so they can move into these other apps. And that's how it works. The data becomes harmonized. The important point to note in this slide is that you can take any 2 of our blades to build out VirtualETL or CloudETL on your premise. It's easily upgraded to the full power Virtual Data Manager without onerous cost increases. It's pretty much straight algebra. We don't penalize you. Or you can build the equivalent in the cloud with QCloud. So you get everything you need. Data quality, notice, is part of our core capability. It's not another division. It's not a partnership. The 10 basic components of data quality come standard, and we're adding more all the time. And those components are essential. You cannot build out data integration without assessing quality beforehand, managing it during the integration, and then measuring it and keeping it in sync in follow-up to that. And that's why we're replacing other vendors. We're constantly replacing vendors, especially from the companies that have been acquired. A couple of big companies went ahead and bought a couple of data integration vendors, and they never pulled their act together, and now we're in the business of replacing them. Half of our deals are replacements now, and more than half of the issue in replacement has been data quality related issues. That shows you how significant it is. In terms of security, our security manager is no more nor less than you have LDAP, you want to apply it to the management of our system. That's great, because that's the way to go. You don't want a vendor with a new security model running around inside your organization in the year 2011. That is not a wise idea, and it is not going to be especially scalable for you, and the rest of your organization will not appreciate it because it's the wrong way to go. It will break your security model, and it will invite fraud into your organization. So we just say LDAP or RAC or whatever you need will be there. Vision for the future: with CloudETL and VirtualETL, you can configure any two tactical integrations, but you can tie them together, you can scale them together, you can get an enterprise view for governance, for compliance, for quality, and you can drive this ultimately towards virtual master data management. We believe it's one continuum. An isolated integration to coordinate and synchronize customer data ultimately turns into master data management. And for a small or mid-tier firm, they need the same benefits between their 2 or 3 back office apps, and we'll do the same. Our integration and automation, even for virtual MDM, will be seamless and easy, such that a small or mid-tier firm will install it at a very slight increase in cost, and there will be the most cost-effective and powerful virtual master data management strategy available, easily cloud-based or on-premise based with a 100% code compatibility. It's the way to go. Thank you for spending time with us on the webinar today. We're not handling questions. Please email us at Queplix.com. You can send them to sales@Queplix.com or to the email shown on the slide. We very much appreciate your time and attendance. We'll look forward to making you one of our customers. And give us a call if you need some help. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.